Dr. Yuna pushed her small research pod through the dark space, watching the broken pieces of ancient ships float around her like metal ghosts. Her scanner beeped constantly as it tried to make sense of what she was seeing. The metal fragments were old, older than anything she had ever studied before. But they also showed damage from weapons that seemed to advance for their age. She pressed the communication button on her control panel. Control. Something is very wrong here. These metal pieces don't match anything in our records. The computer says these ships never existed. Dr. Minho's voice came through the speaker, filled with the same confusion she felt. Same readings, Yuna? My scanner keeps saying no match found for everything I look at. It's like someone erased these ships from all our books. Yuna moved her pod closer to a large piece of wreckage. It had once been the front part of a huge ship, bigger than anything she had seen before. The metal was twisted and burned, but she could still see strange markings carved into its surface. 3 circles connected together with a single star. In the middle, she had studied alien writing for 20 years, but this symbol was completely new to her. She took a picture of it and sent it to the Galactic Consortium's main computer, a machine that held information about every known civilization in the galaxy. The computer's response made her hands shake. Instead of giving her information about the symbol, red words appeared on her screen. Record not found, classification restricted. Minho, are you seeing this? Called to her colleague. The main computer won't tell me what this symbol means. It says the information is restricted. That's impossible, Minho replied. Archaeological data is never restricted. We're scientists, not spies. Yuna stared at the symbol on the metal fragment. In all her years of studying ancient civilizations, she had never found anything the computer refused to identify. Every piece of alien technology, every bit of writing, every cultural artifact. It was all cataloged and available to researchers like her. But not this. She moved her pod to another piece of wreckage and found more symbols. Different ones this time, but equally unknown. Her scanner detected traces of weapons fire energy blasts that had torn through the metal like paper. The power readings were enormous, far beyond what modern weapons could produce. Minho, I'm reading weapon damage patterns here. These ships were destroyed in a battle, a big one. Same here. But according to our history books, there haven't been any major space battles in this region for thousands of years. This area is supposed to be peaceful. Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. She was looking at evidence of a war that apparently never happened, fought by ships that supposedly never existed. The debris field stretched for millions of kilometers in all directions. This hadn't been a small fight between a few ships. This had been a massive battle involving hundreds, maybe thousands of vessels. She piloted her pod to the edge of the debris field and activated her long-range scanner. The pattern of wreckage wasn't random. The destroyed ships formed a rough line, as if they had been traveling together when they were attacked. And that line pointed in a very specific direction. Control, I'm uploading my navigation data now. The debris trail leads toward the inner galaxy, toward the old core worlds. The voice of Captain Dong came through the communication system from the main research ship. Understood, Dr. Yuna. We're analyzing your data now. This is ... Unusual was an understatement. Yuna had discovered evidence of a space battle that had been erased from history. Ships that had fought and died in a war that no one remembered. The implications were staggering. Who had the power to remove entire fleets from the historical record? And why would they do it? She continued to examine the wreckage. Yuna noticed something else strange. The metal fragments seemed to be deteriorating faster than they should. Some pieces that had been intact when she first scanned them were now crumbling into dust. It was as if something was actively trying to destroy the evidence she was finding. She quickly collected several small samples, storing them in her pod's secure compartment. Whatever was happening here, she needed proof. The galaxy deserved to know about this lost battle and the civilizations that had fought it. But even as she worked, Yuna couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The empty space around her felt heavy with unseen eyes. While somewhere out there, someone knew exactly what these ships were and why they had been destroyed. And they probably weren't happy that she had found them. Minho, I think we need to report this to the Consortium Council immediately. This isn't just an archaeological discovery. This is evidence of a cover-up on a galactic scale. Agreed. But YUNA... Be careful. Someone went to this much trouble. To hide this battle, they might not want us talking about it. As her pod drifted through the field of ancient wreckage, Dr. Yuna realized that she had stumbled onto something much bigger and more dangerous than a simple archaeological find. She had found proof of a forgotten war, and whoever had forgotten, it might kill to keep it that way. Admiral Tyke stood on the bridge of his massive warship, staring at the view screen in complete confusion. His fleet of 12 ships had just arrived at the edge of a solar system that should not exist. According to every book, every computer file, every historical record in the galaxy, the third planet from this star had been destroyed long ago. But there it was. A beautiful blue and green world spinning peacefully in space. This makes no sense, he muttered to himself. The records clearly state that this planet was burned to ash 3,000 years ago during the Silence Wars. His second-in-command, Commander Jisoo, walked up beside him. Sir, our sensors are picking up something strange. The planet is not just alive, it's crowded. We're reading 8 billion life forms down there. And they've built cities, space stations, everything. Admiral Tyke rubbed his forehead. The Silence Wars were ancient history, but the records were clear. This solar system had been the site of a terrible battle that left the third planet completely dead. Every schoolchild in the galaxy learned about it as an example of the horrors of war. Sir, called out the sensor operator, a young officer named Wook, I'm detecting massive weapons platforms hidden throughout this system. Invisible satellites, secret bases on asteroids, defense systems everywhere. They knew we were coming before we even arrived. The Admiral felt a cold chill run down his spine. Whoever lived on this planet had been preparing for visitors. And they had weapons, lots of them. Deep beneath the city of Seoul on Earth's surface, General Kyung stood in a room. Full of glowing screens and holographic maps, the secret command center had been built hundreds of meters underground, hidden from any outside detection. Around him, the faces of other military leaders appeared as shimmering blue projections, speaking to him from hidden bases around the world. The alien archaeological teams have been too successful, said Dr. Soman, speaking from her laboratory in Switzerland. They've found debris from 17 different battle sites. They're starting to piece together what really happened. General Kuhn, an old man with gray hair and tired eyes, nodded slowly. What exactly do they know? Not everything, but enough to be dangerous. They've found pieces of ships from the old war. They're asking questions about battles that are records. Say, never happened. They're looking for information about an empire they call the Hegemony. The general's face grew dark at the mention of that name. The Hegemony, an empire so evil that humanity had worked for centuries to erase every trace of it from the galaxy's memory. Ambassador Hannah's image appeared in the room. She was speaking from a space station far from Earth, where she served as humanity's representative to the alien governments. Admiral Tyke is asking permission to bring his ships closer to Earth. He says he has the right to investigate under galactic law. General Kung was quiet for a long time. He remembered the old days when he was young and the galaxy burned under the rule of the hegemony. He remembered the screams of children, the burning cities, the poisoned oceans. He remembered the day humanity finally said enough and fought back with weapons that could rewrite reality itself. The aliens had been happy to forget the hegemony. Most species had suffered under their rule, and when the empire vanished overnight, no one asked too many questions. They were grateful to be free and didn't care why or how it had happened. But now these archaeologists were digging up the past. They were finding evidence of the war that humanity had tried so hard to hide. Let them come closer, General Kyung finally said. But activate Protocol 7 if they learn too much, ... He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone in the room knew what Protocol 7 meant. It was the same power that had been used to erase the hegemony from history. The power to make people forget. The power to rewrite memories and delete entire civilizations from the galaxy's collective consciousness. They had hoped never to use it again, back in space. Admiral Tyke received permission to move his fleet closer to the mysterious planet. As his ships flew deeper into the solar system, he noticed more and more strange things. The asteroids showed signs of ancient weapon damage. The moons had scars from battles that supposedly never happened. And everywhere, hidden defensive systems watched their approach. "Sir," Commander Jisoo said quietly, "I'm starting to think we're not investigating an archaeological site. I think we're entering a trap." Admiral Tyke nodded grimly. The humans on the planet below had been waiting for visitors like them. They had weapons that could destroy his entire fleet in seconds. But more than that, they had secrets. Secrets about a war that had been erased from history. As his ships moved closer to Earth, the Admiral wondered what other lies the history books contained. I think this planet was supposed to be dead but was actually thriving? What else had been hidden from the galaxy? More importantly, what would happen to him and his crew if they learned too much about humanity's past? The blue and green planet grew larger on his screen, beautiful and peaceful looking. But Admiral Tyke now understood that appearances could be very deceiving. This world held mysteries that someone had killed to protect. Soon, he would learn exactly how far humanity was willing to go to keep their secrets safe. Dr. Yuna's hand shook as she opened the ancient computer device they had pulled from the biggest piece of wreckage. Her team had spent 6 long months trying to unlock its secrets. Now, as the holographic screen flickered to life, she saw information that made her stomach drop. The glowing words floating in front of her told a story of war. Not just any war, but the biggest military attack in galactic history. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all targeting something called Cell 3, a planet she had never heard of before. "Minho, come look at this right now," she called to her research partner. Her voice was tight with excitement and fear. Dr. Minho hurried over and stared at the floating text and images. His face went pale as he read the invasion plans. Shows an empire called the Hegemony. They were planning to attack this Sol 3 planet with everything they had. "But Yuna, I've never heard of the Hegemony before." "Neither have I," Yuna replied, scrolling through more files. "But look at all this data. Battle formations, supply lines, weapon specifications. This empire had conquered half the galaxy. How could we not know about them?" She pulled up more files showing star maps marked with Hegemony territory. According to these records, the empire had controlled thousands of worlds and billions of people. They had fought wars across the galaxy for centuries. But when Minho searched the consortium's main database for any mention of the Hegemony, he found nothing. No records, no history books, no archaeological evidence. It was as if this massive empire had never existed at all. "This is impossible," Minho muttered, running his hands through his hair. "You can't just erase an entire civilization from history. Someone would remember. There would be traces, evidence, something." Yuna studied the timestamps on the files more carefully. Every single record from the Hegemony cut off at exactly the same moment, minus 3,247 years. 4 months and 12 days ago. After that date, nothing. No more messages, no more battle reports, no more existence. "Look at this pattern," she said, pointing to the data. "It's not like the empire slowly fell apart or was gradually conquered. One day they were there, planning this massive invasion. The next day, completely gone. Like someone just deleted them." As the two scientists worked through the night, studying the impossible data, strange things began to happen around them. The notes Yuna had written became harder to read. The complex theories she had developed started to seem less important. The overwhelming evidence that had excited her so much began to feel distant and unclear. Minho found himself forgetting why he had been so interested in the wreckage. The detailed battle plans that had shocked him hours earlier now seemed boring and unimportant. He couldn't quite remember what had been so exciting about some old, broken ships. Neither scientist realized that their memories were being carefully edited by technology beyond their understanding, far away on Earth. Dr. Salmon sat in her secret laboratory deep beneath the Swiss mountains. Banks of quantum computers hummed around her, generating invisible fields that could reach across space to touch the minds of anyone who've got too close to dangerous truths. She watched the readings her screens as the memory modification beams worked on the archaeological team. The process was gentle but thorough, like erasing pencil marks from paper and writing something new in their place. Memory suppression is working well, she reported to General Kyung through their secure communication channel. Scientists are forgetting about the hegemony data. In 2 days, they'll remember finding some old ship parts, and nothing more. General Kyung's weathered face appeared on her screen. What if the memory wipe doesn't work completely? What if they fight it? Dr. Summon's expression turned cold and calculating. Then we use Protocol 9. We completely rewrite their brains. Instead of archaeologists asking dangerous questions, they'll wake up tomorrow thinking they're teachers or farmers or anything else we choose. They'll be happy and safe, and they'll never bother us again. The technology that made this possible was the same power that had erased the hegemony from galactic history 3,000 years ago. Back then, humanity had been pushed to the edge of extinction by the evil empire. The hegemony had turned human children into weapons, poisoned Earth's oceans, and burned entire cities for fun. When humanity finally fought back, they didn't just win the war. They used quantum technology to reach backward through time and erase the hegemony from reality itself. Every record, every memory, every trace of the Empire's existence was carefully removed from the galaxy's collective consciousness. Only humans remembered what had really happened. Only they carried the burden of knowing about the evil that had once threatened every living world in the galaxy. Now, as Dr. Yuna and Dr. Minho slowly forgot their earth-shaking discovery, humanity's guardians watched and waited. They had learned. To be merciful, the other species in the galaxy didn't need to remember the trauma of hegemony rule. But they had also learned to be ruthless when necessary. If erasing memories wasn't enough to protect their secret, they were prepared to do much worse. The galaxy slept peacefully, protected by humans who remembered nightmares so that everyone else could dream safely, and in her laboratory. Dr. Soman made sure it stayed that way. Ambassador Hannah sat in the comfortable meeting room aboard Admiral Tyke's warship, watching the alien commander rub his temples in frustration. The tall, blue-skinned officer looked tired and confused, like someone trying to remember a dream that kept slipping away. "Something is very wrong here," Admiral Tyke said, his voice filled with suspicion. "My scientists found evidence of a huge battle. They were excited about their discovery. Then suddenly, they couldn't remember what they had found. They just talked about finding some old broken ships." Hannah kept her face calm, but inside she felt the weight of 3,000 years of secrets pressing down on her. She had been humanity's ambassador to the alien governments for 15 years, always careful to never reveal too much about Earth's true history. "My sensor officers detected powerful weapon marks on asteroids," the Admiral continued. "They wrote detailed reports about energy signatures from weapons more advanced than anything we have today. Then the next day they said they had made mistakes. They claimed they had seen nothing unusual." The alien commander leaned forward in his chair, his large eyes fixed on Hannah's face. "People don't just forget important discoveries like that. Someone is changing our memories, and I think you know who." Hannah felt a moment of fear. Admiral Tyke was smarter than most aliens. Despite the memory modification beams that Dr. Soman was using on his crew, he was starting to figure out the truth. She had 2 choices now: lie and hope he would give up, or tell him everything and trust that he would understand why humanity had done what they did. She thought about the woman she had been when she first became an ambassador. That younger Hannah had believed that honesty was always the best choice. She had wanted humanity to be completely open with their alien neighbors, to build friendships based on trust and truth. But that was before she learned about the real history of the galaxy, before she understood the terrible burden that humanity carried. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I'm going to tell you something that must never leave this room. After you hear it, you'll understand why we've been so secretive." She pressed a button on the table, activating privacy shields that would prevent anyone from listening to their conversation. The room hummed softly as the protective barriers came online. 3,000 years ago, Hannah began, there was an empire called the Hegemony. They controlled half the galaxy. They were the most evil civilization that ever existed. Admiral Tyke's translator device struggled to process some of her words, making strange clicking sounds as it tried to find equivalent terms in his language. The hegemony were not just conquerors, Hannah continued. They were destroyers. They would capture entire worlds and turn the populations into slaves. They burned planets for entertainment. They experimented on children. They poisoned entire solar systems just to watch the inhabitants die slowly. The Admiral's blue skin grew pale as he listened. When humanity was still young, we had only just begun to travel. Between stars, the hegemony found Earth. They invaded our world with millions of soldiers. They captured our children and used alien technology to turn them into living weapons. They poisoned our oceans with chemicals that made the water burn anyone who touched it. They destroyed our cities and forced the survivors to watch. Hannah's voice grew harder as she spoke. These were not just history lessons to her. Her own ancestors had lived through the hegemony occupation. Her family carried the genetic memory of those terrible years. But humanity fought back, she said. We didn't just fight with guns and spaceships. We developed technology that could change reality itself. We learned how to reach back through time and space to alter the very foundation of existence. Admiral Tyke stared at her in disbelief. That's impossible. No one has that kind of power. Is it impossible? Hannah asked, gesturing toward the window that showed Earth spinning peacefully in space. Your history books say this planet was destroyed in an ancient war. But here it is, green and alive, with 8 billion people. Your scientists found evidence of a galactic empire that ruled half the galaxy. But when you search your databases, you find nothing. How do you explain these things? The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, processing what she had told him. We didn't just defeat the hegemony, Hannah continued. We erased them completely. We removed them from history, from memory, from the quantum structure of reality itself. As far as the universe is concerned, they never existed. Only humans remember them. Why? Tyke whispered. Why carry that burden alone? Hannah's expression softened slightly. Because the other species in the galaxy suffered under hegemony rule. For centuries, billions of people were tortured, enslaved, killed for sport. When we erased the hegemony, we also erased the trauma and pain they had caused. We gave the galaxy a chance to heal. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. But we also keep watching. If anyone else tries to build an empire based on slavery and conquest, if anyone else decides that burning worlds is acceptable, she turned back to face the Admiral. We'll erase them too, completely, as if they never existed. Admiral Tyke sat in stunned silence, finally understanding the true power of the peaceful-looking world outside his ship, the Great Council Hall on. Nexus Prime had never seen security this tight. Armed guards stood at every entrance, and special machines hummed quietly in the corners, creating invisible barriers that would prevent anyone from listening to the meeting. Only the most important leaders from across the galaxy had been invited, and even they didn't fully understand why they were there. The documents they had been given to read were strange. The words seemed to move and change when they tried to focus on them. Important sentences became blurry and hard to remember. It was as if the information didn't want to be understood. Admiral Tyke walked to the center of the circular chamber, carrying a small tablet that glowed with classified data. The device would destroy itself in a few hours, erasing all evidence of what it contained. His hands shook slightly as he began to speak. What I'm about to tell you will change how you see our galaxy, he said, his voice echoing in the quiet room. Humanity has power that we never imagined.
Yeah.
They can change reality itself. They have already used this power to erase an entire empire from existence. Counselor Vera from the Andromedan worlds raised her hand, her voice filled with fear. You saying they could do the same thing to us? Just ... make us disappear? Yes, Admiral Tyke replied simply. If they decided we were a threat to galactic peace, they could erase us completely. No one would remember we ever existed. The room filled with worried whispers. Council Leader Dex, an elderly being with gray skin and wise eyes, leaned forward. In his chair, so we have two choices. If we can tell everyone in the galaxy about this and cause massive panic, or we trust them, Admiral Tyke finished. The evidence shows that humans only use this power to protect innocent people. They erased the hegemony because that empire was torturing and enslaving entire worlds. As he spoke these words, something amazing happened. A shimmering blue light appeared in the center of the room, and Ambassador Hannah's image formed out of the light. She looked tired, like someone who had been carrying a heavy weight for a very long time. "Honored council members," she began, her voice gentle but strong. "I know this is frightening news, but I want you to understand something about humanity." She paused, looking at each council member in turn. "We learned two important lessons from our war with the hegemony. First, that being merciful sometimes requires great strength. We protect innocent people even when it means we have to remember terrible things that they can forget. Second, some evils are so great that they must be completely destroyed." The council members listened in complete silence. "We watch over the galaxy," Hannah continued. "We remember the nightmares so that everyone else can sleep peacefully. Most people in the galaxy don't even know how safe they are because we've erased the memory of the threats that once existed." Counselor Vera asked in a whisper. "But what if you decide that we're dangerous? What if you think our species is a threat?" Ambassador Hannah's image smiled sadly. "You have the same protection that the hegemony had, as long as you value life and freedom, as long as you don't try to enslave other worlds or commit genocide. You have absolutely nothing to fear from humanity." Her voice became harder. "But if anyone ever tries to follow the hegemony's path, if they decide that conquering and torturing innocent people is acceptable, they will learn what it means to never have existed at all." The council members looked at each other nervously. They were being given a choice that would affect the entire galaxy. Tell everyone about humanity's secret power and cause widespread fear and chaos, or keep the secret and trust that Earth's children would continue to protect them. When the vote was taken, it was unanimous. Every single council member chose to keep the secret. Records would be sealed away where no one could find them. The galaxy would continue to live in peaceful ignorance of the guardians who watched over them. As the meeting ended, something strange began to happen. The council members started to forget why they had been so worried. The frightening information they had learned became fuzzy and unimportant. Within minutes, they were chatting casually about normal government business, convinced they had just attended a routine administrative meeting. Only Admiral Tyke retained clear memories of what had been discussed. As he walked back to his ship, he wondered if humanity had allowed him to remember as a test of trust, or as a warning of what could happen if that trust was broken. Far out in space, hidden monitoring stations continued their endless watch. Computer systems scanned every transmission, every ship movement, every sign that a new threat might be emerging. If anyone tried to build an empire based on conquest and cruelty, the stations would detect it immediately. On Earth, Dr. Soman sat in her underground laboratory, watching the data streams from across the galaxy. "Everything is quiet," she reported to General Kyung. "No new threats detected. The memory barriers are working perfectly." The old general nodded with satisfaction. Good, the galaxy can keep sleeping safely. And so it was that the universe continued to turn peacefully, protected by guardians who remembered the darkness so that everyone else could live in the light.